All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know.
I'm about to take you guys down a rabbit hole, man.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Man, like I said, after the WandaVision, I started thinking about why Mephisto did not show up. And it got me wondering, because everybody was just so sure that he was coming. And I went back and, West Coast Avengers number 53 was getting hot. That came out in 1989. That had Master Pandemonium on the cover with Wanda's two sons turned into look like demons or something for arms or whatever that was. But the way the story goes, I guess Mephisto hired him to go and retrieve his soul pieces. He had his soul separated into 5 pieces, and Wanda, when she created her twins, Speed and Wiccan, she ended up getting 2 pieces of Mephisto's soul for her kids. And it got me to wondering what caused Mephisto's soul to separate in the first place into 5 pieces. And I found that led me to this right here. Fantastic Four, number 277. This is where Mephisto goes in and he basically kidnaps the Fantastic Four and takes their souls down into hell. And I had to read this book because I was curious about how all this got started. And he takes them down to hell along with their son, Franklin Richards. And he's got Franklin encased in what looks like a crystal. And he's torturing Sue and Reed Richards. And, they're powerless against him. And somebody calls in Doctor Strange, and he comes to where their bodies are in our present day reality, and people think they're dead, and they've got them laid out on the ground. But actually, of course, he figures out where they are and what's going on, and he goes down into the realm, and he's seeing what's going on. And Reed Richards has figured out that Mephisto is siphoning off their son, Franklin Richards' powers, and he's using that against them, and that's why they can't do anything about it. And Reed Richards is screaming to him to release his son, and Mephisto freaks out, and he's like, "Don't do it." And when Strange, he's like, "Oh, I don't know what's going on, but I'll follow your lead, Reed," and he releases Franklin from that whatever that is that Mephisto has him in. And the little kid starts freaking out. And he starts talking about no more. And, you're a bad man and I want you gone. And he lights up, Franklin back in the day, and probably even, well, I don't know how they retconned him, but he was the most powerful mutant, I believe, on the planet at that time. His whole body lights up, and he just says, he wants the bad man gone. And before he disintegrates Mephisto, that's where I guess he separates his soul into these 5 pieces. But like I said, that story intrigued me so much, man. I started going after these books. I'm not saying this is going to be spec play or anything, but I'm just starting to lead you down this rabbit hole that I went. So buckle up. Anyway, this is a Canadian variant. I got 2 of those, as well as a Mark Jeweler. And like I said, I like this so much. I also picked up a 9.6. Also, what's happening in this story, man, this is around the time of Secret Wars. Ben Grimm comes back from Secret Wars. I don't know if it's the first one or the second one, But Ben Grimm comes back, and all he wants to do is get to his girlfriend slash fiance. What's her name? Alicia Masterson, and he finds out that Johnny Storm has been shacking up with her while he was gone, and the She-Hulk is now assumed his position in the Fantastic Four. So that's another interesting little side story. But anyway, like I said, I started there and I was still trying to find where, well, I was like, well, anyway, WandaVision was on the Disney streaming, and I just didn't think there was no way we were going to see Mephisto. It would have been cool on the Disney platform. Parents, mothers, they might have freaked out about that. So I started thinking of where else we might see him, and I got to thinking about Blade. We got Blade coming to the MCU, and that might be a great place to start him out at. That whole mystical, not mystical, but that whole horror genre type of deal that Marvel wants to go into. And I was trying to find a first appearance or a first time that Blade and Mephisto met. And I was going through just titles and reading different things online and just trying to figure out where I could find it at. And I couldn't. But during my search, I ran into this. Check it out. This is Strange Tales number 1. This is the movie variant with Wesley Snipes. This came out in 1998. And not only did I not get number 1, I got number 2 and number 3 of that story. And also while I was searching, I came across an interesting story that deals with Deacon Frost, Hannibal King. The title of this is Blade, the One Shot, Crescent City of Blues. Now, in this story arc, in this one shot, Deacon Frost teams up with this lady named Marie Laveau to take over the organized crime in New Orleans. I think there's a subplot or something dealing with Dracula. He's not acting like he's not the Lord of Vampires at this time. But Deacon, he captures Blade, Hannibal King, and check this out. Brother Voodoo is in this story. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. We've already heard some speculation a while back that Brother Voodoo was going to be showing up in the MCU. As a matter of fact, people think he's going to show up in that Doctor Strange movie coming out, Multiverse of Madness. We already know that America Chavez is coming, but a lot of people are thinking that may be where we see it's Dr. Voodoo now, but I still prefer Brother Voodoo, Brother Man. But anyway, Deacon Frost captures Hannibal, Blade, and Brother Voodoo. They end up, of course, the heroes escape, and Blade and Deacon Frost, they battle to a stalemate, and Deacon Frost escapes. But I just thought this was really interesting when I was reading it, as far as something that could possibly show up. And it could be, if they do bring Brother Voodoo into the MCU and on Doctor Strange, they're going to want to have him in multiple stories. They want to try and find places for him to fit in, and Blade could be an awesome place. Also, if they do ever decide to bring Strange Academy either to the big screen or Disney streaming, we already know Brother Voodoo is he's an instructor at the Academy. Oh, and by the way, I picked up 2 copies of that. Anyway, getting back to my hunt, I came across, of course, the Night Stalkers, and when Blade joined the Night Stalkers, and I was reading that at one time, the mother of all demons, Lilith, the wife of Samael, Satan, the fallen angels, she comes to the Night Stalkers, and she comes to hire them to kill the Ghost Rider. Like, what? All right. She wants him to kill the Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze in the Night Stalkers. And once they figured out that they were being duped, there's this whole battle that takes place between Lilith and her demons. And Blade and crew, you know, they continue on together doing their thing. But I was like, Lilith, okay, let me go and see if I can find something on Lilith. And sure enough, check this out. We've got Vampire Tales, number 4. This came out in 1974. This is the first cameo appearance of Lilith. So, you know, I mean, I'm kind of finding my own path. You know what I'm saying? Not really going by what anybody else is saying. This has been my process. Not only did I get one, I got 2 of these. I really liked the cover, and I just thought it was interesting. And who knows who we're going to see in the future? So I thought for me this was. But let's move ahead a little bit with Blade. You got Blade, Doctor Strange, and Morbius, along with the Darkhold Redeemers, to form the next leg of this possible horror arc run where everybody thinks we're going, and we're going to go into the Midnight Suns. Now, keep in mind, this group that was created, they're dedicated to preserving the boundaries between the world of the living and the dark realms. And of course, Blade's soul, you know, his desire is to destroy supernatural enemies. And because of this strong desire within him, it led him to be tricked into using, get this, the Darkhold. Let me say that again. Blade was tricked into using the Darkhold. Now let that marinate for a minute. Let's go back to the beginning of this when I started talking about WandaVision. Wow. At the end of that, Agatha Harkness reveals to her the Darkhold. And it ends up, spoiler alert, the Scarlet Witch, you know, that whole the battle took place, and it ends up Scarlet Witch needs some time, so she goes to this little remote cabin, who knows where in the distant, and her astral form is reading and studying and learning from the Darkhold. And of course, everybody is theorizing that she's going to use that to reincarnate her sons, Speed and Wiccan, which is why everybody is freaking out and why the Young Avengers #1 is going absolutely apeshit right now. But with that being said, the Darkhold, I had to stop. I had to wait. I had to say to myself, wait, stop. Okay. Here it is again. And also keep in mind, not just did we see it in WandaVision, but that immediately threw me back into, and I've talked about this series before, and if you didn't watch it, it was a great series, man. You got to make it past like season 1, but once you get into like season 2 and it starts rolling, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that TV show, man, that was off the chain. That was a great series. If you haven't watched it, do yourself a service and go watch that, man. Anyway, in season 4, they had a little story arc dealing with what? The Darkhold. Yes, they did. You can't make this stuff up. I have to give it to the writers and the creators. If they plan this stuff that far back, wow. Okay? Just wow. So now I'm off a Blade, right? And now I'm getting ready to go. And I said after this point, I was like, I need to learn more about what's going on with the Darkhold. So here we go. We're getting ready to dive. This is where we really start deep diving, and well, just sit back and enjoy the ride, man. So check it out. Eons ago, there was this elder god, right? His name is Cathan, and Cathan is the creator, writer, whatever you want to call it, of the Darkhold. And I've actually shown this book before and really didn't, I was just picking up things hot. I liked it. I was like, this might be a good spec. But once I dove in and I started looking into the lore and the history of Marvel and where they went with this right here. This is Marvel Chillers #1, Modred the Mystic. This is the first appearance of Cathan. Like I said, once I saw that and I started getting deeper and deeper into this, I had to go pick me up. This was the highest grade I saw at the time. I had to go get it. This is an 8.0. Okay. So Cathan wrote all of his evil works and spells on an indestructible parchment. It was originally written on flesh before being transcribed into stone, and later collections of parchments, often referred to as the Cathan scrolls. These pages were bound together into a tome or a codex type that was named the Darkhold. Now I'm going to leave that there because I'm going to come back to this a little later down the line. Cathan left the scrolls. He's left the scrolls on Earth so that they might be like a gateway or to serve as a conduit for him between the Earth realm and his realm, so that he would always be able to have an influence of power over this planet. Just it's unreal. I couldn't believe how deep this stuff goes. But like I said, this Marvel Chillers #1, this came out in 1975. It's the first appearance of Cathan. It's the first appearance of Modred the Mystic. Humans first found the Darkhold during what they were calling the pre-cataclysmic era. This is when, now check it out, when Atlantis and Lemuria, like what, was still above the waters on the planet. This is when a time when Kull, do you guys know Kull? Kull the Conqueror. He slew the dark sorcerer Thulsa Doom. And I'm going to get into that in another haul, but Thulsa Doom, Kull the Conqueror, the Darkhold, goes back there. It goes back. Okay? I guess when Thulsa Doom, when he was defeated, his followers, calling themselves the Darkholders, utilized a spell in order to defeat Kull, whatever. They utilized the spell contained in the Darkhold to create, you ready for this? The very first vampires on the planet. I'm like, what? The Darkhold is responsible for the first vampire. And the first vampire to be created by the Darkhold on the planet appears in this book right here. We've got Marvel Magazine Group #33, Bizarre Adventures. That first vampire's name was, I'm probably going to butcher it, but I'm going to give it a shot. Varnae, Varnae. Anyway, they created him to do battle with Kull. Kull was a bad boy. And I'm not going to get into it now, but check it out. The Darkhold goes back and deals in and around the time with Conan, Red Sonja. And let's keep in mind that Marvel reacquired Conan You starting to see the links? I'm like, this is not what they're gonna do, is it? Anyway, Varney, he had gotten into a battle. He got into a skirmishes with Cole the Conqueror. Anyway, when he was mortally wounded, almost defeated by Cole, he consumed some of the followers of Thulsa Doom, and in doing so, to regain his power, he creates the first vampire. He started creating the first vampire legion, horde, however you want to put it out there. Anyway, after all this went down, some of the surviving members of the Darkholders, after that war, whatever, Great War, whatever we want to call it, they managed to make off with the Darkhold before Atlantis sank. Now, the next thing that I want to get into, and I've shown this before, and to me, this is the link, the center point from which all this stuff can possibly rotate around. WandaVision, everything they might be doing, how things are going to go forward in the future. I've shown this before also, and people have talked about this book, but I have never really understood until I went in for myself, and just some of the stuff that I found out, it blew me away. Anyway, this is the Avengers number 187. The first appearance, I believe, of the Darkhold is in what is that? Is it Werewolf by Night number 4? No, it's something. Anyway, this came out in 1979. This is the origin of the Darkhold, and it has in it the first appearance of the Darkholders and a flashback. It also has the first appearance of, get this, Gregor Rusoff. And who is he? He's the grandfather of Jack Russell. Does that name sound familiar? It should. Jack Russell is the Werewolf by Night. He's the grandson of this guy named Gregor Russell. Jack Russell, the Werewolf by Night. Now, you ask yourself, how is that linked in to the Darkhold? How does it tie in? Okay, so as the story goes, sometime in the 1930s, Gregor acquires the Darkhold, and he would take and transfer. He would later copy the Darkhold or some of the spells or whatnot into the journal of his ancestors, and he used this journal for himself. And as to how he got it, there's some varying stories on that, but we're not going to go there. What I am going to say is that back a couple generations prior, there's his name is Gregory. He's a distant relative of Gregor Rusoff. He actually was a werewolf. And he was back in the day battling Dracula at Dracula's castle. And he was mortally wounded. And something about a gypsy or something found him. And she brought him back to life by biting him and turning him into a werewolf. And this curse went on. It was passed down from generation to generation through the bloodlines. But not everybody that received the curse turned into a werewolf. So what does Gregor do? He invokes a spell that he had to have deciphered that unlocked the ability that turned him into how's it go? He read the origin of lycanthropy in the Darkhold, and after chanting some words, he turned himself into a werewolf. Just crazy. So I got to thinking about Jack Russell coming to the MCU, right? And I'm like, well, I think Marvel, if they are going to get into this whole horror genre, they might want to bring a group of them together to battle an even darker foe. And in order for Jack Russell, I'm thinking, to be able to do that, he's going to want to be able to control his transformations. And I said, let me see if I can find something where that happens. And sure enough, it happens here in Werewolf by Night, number 38. This is where we get the first appearance of the three who are all. And they were able to partially lift the curse and allow him to change at will. And he would be able to retain his human intellect while in werewolf form. I like this book so much, I grabbed 2 of these. I'm not saying anything is going to happen with this, but this is just when I dove in, just where my mind went, and when I started looking into what I wanted to get. So after this, we've got one last thing that I want to talk about with this Avengers number 187. Morgan Le Fay is also mentioned in this book in a flashback. So when I started doing a little research on Morgan Le Fay, come to find out she has deep roots tied back into Darkhold lore. She is credited with acquiring the Darkhold scrolls. Remember, I said I'll come back to this. Well, here we are now. She was the one who binded them into the first magical tome. She's, like I said, she collected them and she binded them into the first magical tome that became the Darkhold book. So after doing this, Morgan and the Darkholders, the followers of Thulsa Doom, they wanted to try and resurrect Cthulhu in order to be able to gain his powers and control him. And in doing so, he was just too powerful. And Morgan Le Fay was just, she couldn't defeat him, but she was lucky that she was able to banish his spirit. And I was like, Morgan Le Fay, what's her first appearance? Her first appearance, check this out, is in The Black Knight, number 1, 1955. I know exactly what that book is, and I knew I was priced out of that a long time ago. That book is, it's up there in price. But after seeing that, I'm like, we got the Black Knight coming to the MCU, man. We got him he's going to be in the Eternals. So why not Morgan Le Fay at some point? I think she's going to show up. I think she's going to show up, not just because she's tied to the Black Knight, but I think this Darkhold thing, man, is going to be huge moving forward. And not only do I think it's going to be huge, I think that it's not going to be Mephisto right off the bat. I'm thinking right off the bat, it's going to be Cthulhu. We're going to see Cthulhu. Because if you're going to deal in the Darkhold, you got to bring the creator of the Darkhold into the story. But anyway, back to Morgan Le Fay. Like I said, that book is too expensive. So I was like, well, where else does she appear? And sure enough, check it out. This is Morgan Le Fay's first appearance into the Bronze Age. Of all places, Spider-Woman, number 2. Now, if that doesn't have your mind just going, when I was going through all this, I was just going nuts. I couldn't believe all the stuff that was tying together. I'm like, what's her name? It was announced last year or year before last that the woman that was on House, Olivia Wilde, she was going to be taking on a spider person project in the future. And people are thinking that it's going to be Spider-Woman. And sure enough, like I said, here we are. I mean, I might be way out there. You guys let me know what you think. You know, by all means, comment. Tell me if you think I'm on the right track. Do you think I'm way off, or do you think what I'm saying might have some merit? But like, excuse me. But like I said, Morgan Le Fay, her first appearance into the Bronze Age happens here in Spider-Woman number 2. So I had to pick up a couple of copies of this. All right. Hopefully, I haven't bored you guys too much. I know I got a little long-winded there, but this was a lot, and I just wanted to put it out there, man. I thought this was extremely interesting.
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world? This can't be. Be what? Be real? Let's go. Tank, we're going to need a signal soon. Up, now, Tank, now.
Are you ready? Once I've got something on my mind, I'm all in. So if you remember the last time, I was all about that Darkhold. And I was talking about the book that opened things up for me and just sent me on that journey down that rabbit hole. Was this Avengers 187? Now, remember I said that 187 led me to the elder god Cthon. So going deeper into the elder gods, they have many names. One such name is the Great Old Ones. And the first mention is in this. We've got the Tower of Shadows, number 6. This bad boy came out in 1970. And like I said, this is where you get the first mention of the Great Old Ones. And Cthon is definitely one of them. Now, well, I guess I'll leave this up for a minute. I got this in a 9.4, man. This was the highest grade that I could find of this. And for the price, couldn't beat it. I had to get it. Like I said, nobody's specking on this stuff right now. Nobody's even looking at this. And like I said, it's just interesting the direction your research will take you. So, according to the lore, the Old Ones populated all of existence before the act of creation. During the time of men, they created huge cities, one which is rumored to be Atlantis. They worked magic in ways that were not quite imagined in the minds of men yet. Their magic was carved into the writings on walls of tombs that were located in the ancient city. And it was theorized to be the source of all magic. And when I got to looking at that, I'm like, okay, this was theorized by this cat called the Logomancer. So, of course, I had to go and look that up. And the first appearance of the Logomaster shows up in Namor, the First Mutant, number 3. That is a beautiful cover right there. This came out in 2010. And as a matter of fact, it's when I picked this up, these aren't there's no spec on this, but these are just some beautiful covers. I also grabbed number 1, number 2, and number 4. Just dope covers. Now you can find what I said to mention in this book, and what's even weirder to me about this run is that Namor finds himself in a struggle with underwater vampires. And I was like, wait, what? I can't make this stuff up, man. It's crazy. Keep in mind, rumors are high that Namor will show up in the MCU. And could it be possible that everything that's going to happen in these next phases in Marvel in their run could it culminate with an all-out battle between the forces of darkness and Earth's heroes? I mean, it's I can't make this stuff up. I mean, I really can't. So, like I said, getting into this, there's just a lot, and this stuff goes in a lot of different directions. The history of the ancients is confusing. It's stemming from Greek as well as Egyptian mythos, as well as some Lovecraft Cthulhu mythos. Regardless, one thing is made clear. Cthon, and I'm sure you've heard this name before, Shumagarath, they were considered the greatest of the old ones. And like I said, Shumagarath, that should ring a bell for those who have been hearing spec that he could possibly show up as one of the big bads in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. With the creation of this new mythos, Marvel introduces Conan, the Barbarian. And I bring up Conan because remember in the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, they had James Earl Jones, and he played Thulsa Doom, who I mentioned previously in that video where I went down that rabbit hole the first time with the Darkhold. Well, his first appearance is in Monsters on the Prowl, number 16. This came out in 1972, and like I said, this is the first appearance of Thulsa Doom. Now, this is King Cole that he's battling, but he's been back and forth with Cole and Conan in the books. As a matter of fact, I picked up 2 copies of that. Just nice book. Now, getting back to the mythos, we see the beginning of everything, including what they're calling the origins of the demiurge. Cthon, you got Cthon, Gaia, and Set. Well, Gaia, fearing the struggle of power among the elder gods and the effects it would have on the earth realm, petitioned the demiurge to conceive in her the means to defeat the elder gods, which at this point have degenerated into practically demons. So she gives birth, man, to Atum, and he has the power to slay demons and absorb their energy, which over time changes him into the monstrous Demogorg. And the first appearance of that is in Thor Annual number 10. And this came out in 1982. We get the first appearance of the Demogorg. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but you know what I mean. Now, I talk about this because it is the Demogorg who forced Cthon to leave the earth. But remember, before Cthon leaves, I talked about this also the last time, he writes the Darkhold. So we'll just leave that right there for a minute, and I'll come back to that later. Anyway, in this issue, there's a meeting between Hela and the Hell Lords in the realm of Pluto. They have decided to merge the two realms in order to increase their power. Now check this. They perform a ritual creating the nexus of the netherworlds. Does that sound familiar? It should. Like the Nexus being, aka Wanda Maximoff, being called the Nexus being. Yeah. And that the first time that she was called that was in the West Coast Avengers number 61. First Wanda as the Nexus. Anyway, during the ritual, they release the Demogorg, and he proceeds to battle and consume the Hell Lords. Now, while this battle ensues, Odin gets involved, and he brings other sky gods, sky fathers, to go to the Nexus to defeat this cat. Okay, with that being said, let's change gears right quick, and let's get back to the Darkhold. During this research, and I think I mentioned it during my first deep dive, that the Darkhold inspired other black magical tomes. One such tome was the legendary Necronomicon, and that was created by Abdul Hazard. That's how I'm gonna say Al Hazard. Anyway, now you know I had to check this guy out. So Abdul Al Hazard, he's also known as the Mad Arab. He was born in the 8th century in Saudi Arabia. Now, he was first mentioned, check this out, in this magazine right here. We've got Monsters Unleashed #3. This came out in 1973. Just a beautiful Neil Adams cover, and it also has it at the preview of The Son of Satan. So I'll leave that up for a minute. And I also want to show, let me get this ready. The first appearance of the Mad Arab came in this book right here. We've got Tarzan, the Lord of Jungles, #15. The Lord of the Jungle, #15. This came out in 1978. This was the highest grade that I could find of this at the time. This is a 9.6. Just like I said, man, when you start going down these rabbit holes, you just never know what you're going to run into and what you might want to go after. But now check this out. This is what I found to be really interesting about this dude, Abdul. He also shows up in the 20th century, and he shows up in all places. Are you ready for this? In Mandrapore. And we know that is definitely blowing up right now. People are specking on Wolverine, Mandrapore like crazy. Wow. What wonderful webs we can weave when we deep dive. Okay, check this out. Abdul hires various groups of mercenaries, right, to kidnap this woman called Tiger in order to take over her crime syndicate in Mandrapore. And her first appearance is in the Uncanny X-Men #229. This came out in 1988. It was written by Chris Claremont, and the cover is by Mark Silvestri. Nobody is talking about this book. And if they are, it might be about the first appearance of the Reavers and Gateway. Now, I'm not saying Tiger will show up, but if she does, this book, when the market catches up, will probably go ballistic. And another book to check out, I don't have it on me at the moment, but it is at Wolverine #4. You get the first appearance of Rough House and Bloodsport. Okay, so earlier I talked about the Demogorge forcing Cthon to leave Earth. But remember, oh, and by the way, that's a beautiful copy right there. That's a high grade. They sent that to me in Mylar. But like I said, remember that the Demogorgon forces Cthon to leave the Earth. But before he leaves, he wrote the Darkhold. Now, what I did not discuss was where he left it. Cthon, before fleeing Earth, wrote all of his evil works and spells onto parchments of flesh in a chamber called the Darkhold. Now, among these caverns inside the mountain, believed to be, get this mountain where these caverns were, are believed to be the modern age Wundagore. Now, I'm going to let that marinate for a minute. Now, if you remember, I also talked about Morgan Le Fay and the Darkholders attempting to use the Darkhold to summon Cthon, but remember, he proved, sorry about that, he proved too powerful for them. And although they were unable to send him back to his realm, they were able to imprison him. And what I did not mention there was where they imprisoned him. He was imprisoned. They imprisoned his spirit underneath Mount Wundagore. So we keep going back to Mount Wundagore. Now, Mount Wundagore, you got to do that research. It's a mountain that is located in the Transian mountain range of Eastern Europe in the country of Transia. Okay, so why bring this up? If this doesn't get your minds racing, wow. Wow. I don't know what will. Anyway, we've got the Avengers number 185. This came out in 1979, and we have the origin of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. So much is going on inside of this issue, but I'm just going to touch on a few things, and that is that Wanda and Pietro, they were being raised by this family named the father's name was Django and the mother was Mara Maximoff, near the border of Transia. This is where they were raised. Now check this out. Django and Mara, they lost their 2 children a while ago. So they were asked to adopt Wanda and Pietro by who? You knew he was coming. By the High Evolutionary. Now, this stuff just gets weirder and weirder. But the High Evolutionary, his first appearance comes in Thor 134 from 1966. That's just a great Jack Kirby cover. And I liked it so much, I had to get 2. Prices on everything is just starting to go crazy. So if you guys are into any of this stuff, man, you get out there, get on it. And with that, I want to conclude this edition of Down the Rabbit Hole of Speculation. And we're going to bring this comic book haul to an end. But before I do, I'm going to leave you guys with this, okay? There are so many different directions that Marvel could go, right? It's almost impossible to try and figure out where this stuff could end up. I mean, we've seen some just wild speculation in the past weeks, i.e. Omega Red Spec during the Falcon and Winter Soldier. But is it possible that Marvel could be laying the groundwork? Look at this, Doctor Strange and the Hobgoblin. Is it possible that they could be laying the groundwork from things from years ago? And it's really up to us to read between the lines in order to see what direction they might be planning to go in the future. Look at this, Doctor Strange, and you remember I'm talking about this? The first vampire? Varney, Lord of the Vampires. But like I said, the deeper you go in this, the crazier this stuff seems to get, to where, yeah, I like the thought of possibly seeing the first vampire in the MCU, but ultimately, all roads could possibly be leading to one of the greatest vampires in all of our current psyches. And they've already been bringing in the characters to set it up. And I'm going to leave you with this book right here. We've got Doctor Strange, number 60, Master of the Mystic Arts. You know who that is in the background. I don't even need to say it. And with that, I appreciate you guys hanging out. Until next time, you guys know what to do. If you like the video, like, subscribe. All right. It's your boy, 666. I'm out.